So, we pretty much all know that shooting is a learned sport, right? Nobody walks on the range for the first time ever and shoots 10s 90% of the time. It doesn't happen because shooting isn't something that anyone really has a natural talent for in the way that somebody might be naturally good at music or art. Maybe one person will have a better feel of spatial relations, which might help them initially have a better feel for shooting, but essentially, everything in the sport can be learned, which means anyone in shooting can theoretically become excellent. So then why is it that some people rise to that high performance level and are dominant over the rest of the competition who can just never seem to catch up? Well, the other day I was paging through one of my shooting diaries and I found a sheet in there that was titled The 12 Traits of Champions. I don't remember where I got it or who came up with it, but I know I've had it for a long time, and I've tried to follow it as well as I can throughout my shooting career. And based on what I've experienced and what I have observed among other competitors, these 12 things are what you will practically always see in those who are consistently at the top of the leaderboards. Oh, and a lot of them can be learned as well. So let's get into those 12 things. Number 1. Champions are positive thinkers. They believe in themselves. Okay, so this first one reminds me a lot of the saying, whether you think you can or that you can't, you're right. Champions believe in their ability to succeed no matter what. They don't have to phrase it as, I will win the gold medal at every match I compete at, but they will have the mindset that when they go to a competition, they're going to perform at a very high level every time. Additionally, whenever they face any kind of obstacle, their attitude is always that they're going to be able to overcome it. If you don't think positively and believe in yourself, then you are your own worst enemy and you're really limiting your potential. Number 2. Champions visualize their success. This means vividly going through scenarios in your mind where you overcome obstacles and reach your goals. This use of mental imagery can help immensely in developing confidence in yourself. And if you've seen yourself winning the final at a big match in your mind 100 times before you actually do it, then when you get there, you're already going to know what's going to happen, exactly what you're going to do, and how you're going to perform. Number 3. Champions surround themselves with positive people and avoid negative influence. How many times have you been behind the line during a match and watched as one person after another comes off at the end and proceeds to say how poorly they did? Maybe you're even a person who does this occasionally. Who do you never see do that, even if they haven't had a great day? That's right. The people who everybody knows is a champion type person. No champion is ever going to get off a line and talk about how badly they did. They might say they could use improvement in this area or that, and they might even highlight what they did right. But they're never going to talk down about their performance because that brings down their self-image and it's going to make it more difficult to have success in the future. Champions are also never going to hang around other people who talk negatively. Negativity is contagious, so if you see someone being a negative person, then leave. And if you're the one sprouting that negativity, then knock it off. It's hurting you, it's hurting your competitors, and nobody likes somebody who sulks around the range every time they get off a line. Pity party limit is about 2 minutes, and at the end of the day, this is all just about holes in paper. The world's going to keep spinning whether you shoot well or you don't. Number 4. Champions are goal setters. This is similar to the saying that success is never an accident, it's a planned for event. If you want to succeed or reach a certain level, you have to set a goal to get there, or you're just going to stagnate and stay right where you are. Be smart about your goal setting. Have long-term goals and more easily reachable short-term goals that will help you get to those long-term ones. Write them out, make them measurable, and be accountable to them. Number 5. Champions have a burning desire to succeed. This one is difficult to teach. If you don't really want to do well, then you probably won't, and if you don't want to do well, then why are you doing this in the first place? That's something you need to figure out for yourself. Number 6. Champions are consistent and disciplined. Success does not come overnight. In order to get there, you need to consistently work towards achieving your goals. This means recognizing, for instance, that there is no off-season. Even if it's during the summer or whatever and you have a couple months that you're not actually shooting, you can still be bettering yourself as a competitor for the next season through, diet and exercise, maybe reading up on sports psychology, whatever you can think of. In order to go places, you need to work at it all the time, not just occasionally and when you feel like it. Number 7. Champions are persistent. This is just the whole if you don't at first succeed, then try again thing that we all know. But to illustrate it, here's a short anecdote. I was talking to a coach the other day about his experiences as a competitor and his quest for the Olympics back when he was shooting. The first time that he was really competitive in making the team, he was actually seen as the favorite, but because of a few problems he experienced during the selection match, he ended up not making the team. After that, he was, reasonably disappointed, and he decided he didn't want to shoot anymore, and he was going to instead, go to grad school, have a career, move on with his life, things like that. Well, then he got a phone call from his coach, who basically told him, what are you doing? You're quitting because you weren't able to figure out how to get over this problem or that hurdle or whatever. He basically convinced him that he was in his prime and capable of achieving what he wanted if he kept working at it. And sure enough, the next squad he was on the team. Number 8. Champions learn from their failures. First of all, a champion won't view anything as a failure to begin with. They will view everything as a learning opportunity, or an area of improvement. You can find a lesson in everything and grow from every experience you have in the sport, even when, and especially when, things don't go the way you wanted them to. Number 9. Champions have incredible powers of focus and concentration. So there are 2 things here. The first is being totally focused on the specific goals you have, that you've already set for yourself, and that's especially over long periods of time. The other side of it is being able to focus on the task at hand that you're doing at a specific moment. In other words, the particular shot you're taking at one instant. A lot of people struggle with this, and that often while they're training or competing, they're busy thinking about other things that keep popping into their mind, or stressing out about something, or making lists in their head of what they need to do after practice, or what they need to get to the store, things like that. Well, one way to combat this is to tree those thoughts. As in, think of it as writing all of those things down on a sticky note and sticking it on a tree before you go to practice. Then when you're done shooting, you can come back and it's still going to be there, and you can deal with them then. This is one way you can stay focused on the task at hand. Tree those other thoughts. Number 10. Champions have a deep love and boundless enthusiasm for the sport. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't like what you're doing, you're probably not going to do very well. And occasionally, most of us will have periods of time where we are not super enthusiastic about training. And those are the times when you really have to remind yourself of what your pay value is. Why are you doing this, and what are you hoping to get out of it? You can change your perspective on it with a little bit of willpower. Number 11. Champions strive for constant and never-ending improvement. This goes hand in hand with the advice to always have a goal to replace your other goals as you meet them. You can't become complacent with your performance because your competitors are not going to. That's why over time, scores in general keep going up. Just look at NCAA collegiate scores, for instance, from the last few years. Only probably less than 10 years ago, the University of Alaska won the NCAA championships with a score of something like 4650. If you go look at team scores from this last year's NCAA season, 4650 wouldn't even get you to the championships. So, constant and never-ending improvement. Number 12. Champions are hard workers. They're willing to go the extra mile. Essentially, you have to be willing to do the things that others are not. One example is listening to this podcast. Good job. Are you going to stay at the range for an extra half hour? Or are you going to come back after lunch and train some more if you train in the morning? Are you going to read up on sports nutrition in your spare time? Are you going to consistently write out your match plans? Champions do all of this and more, and you're going to have to as well if you want to join their ranks. Alright, so that is the list. Hope you enjoyed it and this kind of short episode. Just a reminder, last week's offer from 10.9 is still in effect until March 30th, so you can go to last week's episode to get the details on it. It has to do with purchasing pellets and purchasing shooting long underwear. If you have any questions about today's show or about anything shooting related in general, please send me an email at olympicshootingpodcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the show and me in my pursuit of the Rio Olympics, please consider going to paypal.me/Ryan'sShootingPodcast and making a donation. Talk to you next time.